All right, welcome, guys. Welcome, guys. Welcome. We're back. Another night, Tuesday night, 7 o'clock. Fatherhood Talks. Before we get started tonight, I look at my friend here tonight, and seeing his face. You know, he just celebrated. What birthday was this, my friend? Number 55. He celebrated his 55th birthday.
You talking about me?
Yeah, I'm talking about you. He celebrated his 55th birthday this past weekend. And I wrote him, and I just want to say that this is something I wrote. I told him to say happy birthday, what have you. And what did your response was? Getting what?
I don't even remember. You have to look that up.
Oh, he was saying, and then
I wish I was 55.
Well, you know, I
Actually,
mean,
I'm 26 backwards.
so 26 backwards. And hey, that's a good number too. That means that look, every day here is another guy. I think that's what you said, something like that. Something to the point of just still being here is great.
Yep.
And so I just wanted us to, remember that, birthdays to me, birthdays are great because it means another year we have a person here, a brother here with us, more wisdom, knowledge to be able to give. So again, I just want to tell brother Tenny, happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Happy birthday, man.
Yeah, happy to see him here tonight. All right. So good night. As I said, I took that moment of privilege to just do that. Tonight we will be having a fatherhood think tank conversation. We have quite a few of the fathers here tonight, and we're gonna try to get this ball rolling. I'm Ron Osborne Williams. I'm a father, and I like to, as you would say, I keep the notes of what we do here at Fatherhood. That's what I like to say. Keep the notes. And I'll let the other fathers introduce themselves. Tonight's topic, and hopefully the one came up with the topic. Oh, there you go. As he came up with the topic. Oh, he got it popping tonight. No more Smoky Lounge. He's in the real deal now. No more Smoky Lounge. He in the real deal now. We got him back. I'm gonna let Brother Lightborn kind of like take the lead on this topic we got tonight, because I tried to pull. I'm not gonna pull a rabbit out the hat. I'm gonna go to the source and let the source take us on the place. So again, right now we're doing that. Let the fathers go around, introduce themselves, and I want to get this thing popping once all the fathers go through. Okay, I think that was Fred Ingram. He's a father and a grandfather. I got you, Fred. I know that Pompano Wi-Fi up there. It gets shortchanged because Boca taking all the wattage from over there. We up there in Pompano and Deerfield. Boca take all the wattage.
I'll go next. My name is Ed Tenney. I am a father of 3 biologicals, 3 steps, and a granddaughter who is 7 months old now.
Hey, good evening, gentlemen. My name is Lionel Lightborn. I am the father to a tribe of 7, 4 young men, 3 young women, all are young adults, and a granddaughter, a grand diva. It's always a pleasure to be here.
I'm Justin. I'm a father of 5, soon to be 6. I have an 11-year-old son. I have an 8-year-old daughter, a soon to be 3-year-old daughter, a soon to be 2-year-old daughter. I have an almost 1-year-old, and I have almost a newborn on the way.
Travis, father of 6, 118, 6 all the way down to 10.
Long time no see, my brother. It's good to see you. I was worried about you. I said next time I get in Fort Lauderdale, I'm gonna have to go ride over there to Pompano, see what's going on over there.
I'm not in Pompano no more. I'm in Lauderdale now.
Oh, yo, this man live in all the good neighborhoods, man. This man stay living in all the historic Black neighborhoods. He stayed doing it. I got you.
Yeah.
Who else we
Good
got
to
on
see
there?
y'all too.
Is that everybody? Did we lose Go ahead, Castro.
What am I doing? Go ahead, what?
Just introducing yourself.
Oh, John Ramirez, good evening. John Ramirez, AKA Castro. I'm just dealing with some of my kid, my wife. He just told her she almost flipped. So I'm like, whoa. Had to go in there and try to manage that.
Oh, that was like one of them TikTok videos where the kids is saying something to the mom in front of the dad, and it gets a little heated.
Right. He's 7. Like, whoa, what's going on here?
Mm.
So, yeah, trying to be their child's emotional coach is tough.
And Gene Menard was here. Gene Rob Menard was here. I think he might have got knocked off, but I'm sure he'll be back. He's a father of 2 young adults at this point. All right, so Brother Lightborn, we riding and we looking.
Yeah, tonight is a really great topic because it's something that I think men can relate to organically, right, instinctively, but never really conveyed in depth. Oh, and guess what? It's a discussion that's never really talked about publicly or discussed publicly, and so it's a very intimate discussion into a pastime or a private pastime of manhood that one of our privileges as being men, and particularly male, affords us. And so, being it as it may, riding and looking, very popular within the hip hop culture. I think it's very popular. Particularly, it started with I would say Generation X, which is our generation, Ron, and again we're the hip hop generation. So Generation X started that particular term, riding and looking. Now, if it existed before then, and we have other terminologies for it, then Teeny and I think LJ may be on here. If he's not, then Teeny, you're gonna have to be the go-to on this. About riding and looking. What is riding and looking? You'll hear a lot about riding and looking. Guys know exactly what it is, so I don't even have to explain it to young, particularly men. But for women, it's sometimes, because it's 2 flavors of it. It's 2 aspects of riding and looking, and we're going to get into that as I explain the popular term for it. Riding and looking can be, it can be for addiction reasons, but it can also be for vision reasons. And so here it is, we're riding and looking, and riding and looking simply is when you're in your car for hours, right? You don't feel like going home for whatever reason. And it could be one of those two reasons. It can be, again, for addiction reason or vision reasons. But it's one of them things that keep you in the street. You understand? And it keeps you, you might even burn a tank of gas, if not 2 tanks of gas, just riding in your local community because you have different things going on in your mind. Now, we're going to discuss those different things. You understand? We're going to discuss those different things when it comes to this particular topic. But it's why did you burn a tank of gas in your local community? Or why did you burn 2 tanks of gas in your local community when you could have took a trip all the way to Georgia? And I think a great example of riding and looking is, I remember a case in the 1990s. It always stuck out. It was about a Florida man, a white gentleman. He was a contractor, very affluent contractor, millionaire. And his family reported him missing. I never forgot this story. It always stick out to me. And so his family reported him missing. He was all over the news. And when they did find him, he was in California. This is a true story. And so here it is, this contractor who's married, an affluent guy, a pillar of the community. And he got off from work one day and he just drove with no plans or anything. Just found himself driving all the way to California. And everybody thought he was kidnapped because, you know, he's a businessman. Somebody just thought he was going to be held for ransom. He was gone for a few days, at least 3 to 5 days. And when they discovered he was in California, and he finally contacted his family and told them that he was, you know, he just didn't know. It's like he was trying, he just said he was driving to find himself, basically, essentially. And so with that, I think that's the topic of discussion. Why do we ride and look? And riding and looking is just not one thing, because normally riding and looking in the simplest form means that we're just basically riding around tricking. That's the simplest form of that, if I can get to the simplest form. But riding and looking is going to take on so many different aspects, as you're going to very well find out when we start to discuss this particular topic. But for me, just to line the topic up, I see us riding and looking for 2 reasons, and one for vision reasons and the other one for addiction reasons. But again, you got it. And I've done both. I can really put myself out there to tell you, yeah, I have done both. I have wrote and looked, caught myself riding and looking for addiction reason. I've also caught myself riding and looking for vision reason. And as we get into this, I'll just go into depth on how each one of them looked for me. And then you guys can expand on that as well.
You know, hey, Lionel, you know what? This is a one of them, what I say, come to Jesus sessions. And I'm going to tell you why, because this becomes a part where a lot of times that when I think about being a father, what it means to be a father, it means to be able to be transparent and be honest about things. Because if we can be honest, we can teach our kids to even be better. Not to be honest, but be better. Because I think it's not about them being honest, because they'll be honest, but be better to understand that, look, don't lie to yourself about what you do. Because once you start lying to yourself, where's your character? You know, you lie to yourself, you lie to somebody else. If you lie, you'll steal. If you steal, you'll kill. That's just a thought to myself. You got to be able to tell yourself that you're going to lie to yourself before you lie to somebody else. And so I think that this is a great topic for us to kind of do, because again, I'll be the first to say, I have rode many, and I think that's a rite of passage for young Black males to write. And even listen, I don't think it's even a generation thing. I think that even in 1955, jokers was riding around. 1920, people was riding around in the car if they had, or they walked around. They made sure they didn't walk, maybe back then they made sure they didn't walk across the tracks, but they walked through the neighborhood. They seen some things down at the local juke joint down at the bottom. And that's the equivalent to what we're talking about. And that's the equivalent to being honest about how we become fathers sometimes. This is how we become the dads we become sometimes. from riding and looking. I didn't think about that. That's phenomenal. And so I can tell you, I've ridden. Listen. As this becomes this, I guess it's become my confession. I've been riding. I've probably been riding a lot. And even in the case that you described that story of that influential businessman, you can find yourself looking for a place to be because there's nowhere else to be, but riding in the car, riding through. When I used to live in Philadelphia, I would just be riding all. I would should have went home. I wouldn't even drive to work. I would catch the train to work and come home, get in my little car and ride to all these places that I knew people would be out on the streets. And I would, and then sometimes I would even, and somebody said, man, you're crazy. Sometimes I would just get out the car and sit down on the stoop somewhere. That was back then. It's probably too dangerous to do that today. But back then I would just go and sit down and just, ride around places. And listen, I'll tell you, I did it when I was a teenager in Jacksonville. Used to get me in so much trouble. I was supposed to be going to the store. Next thing I know, if anybody know Jacksonville, I'm on off of Dunn Avenue. That's one area. I done went across the bridge, all the way over, way on the north side, Moncrief, Grand Park, riding around, just right. I was supposed to go to the Winn-Dixie up the street. That's the kind of, and we would listen. You never know what you run into riding down the street, and that's a really good point. That's a really good point.
I have a question, Lionel. Good evening, Lionel. Yeah, that Ryan is why some of us became dads. The question lies in, if you're already married, that's a different set of circumstances of why you're doing that versus a young single man doing that, right? There's different reasons and different factors that one is engaged in that activity, right? Now, my question lies here is, we think that as married men, or as we transition into different late ages of life or transitions of fatherhood or different things, that you would think some of that behavior that no longer serves us would kind of just stop, right? What, for the sake of the conversation, kind of just what sparked in my head is, why some of us, and I'm gonna just throw myself in the mix, why some of us mature slower, different paces than others, or some of us we're just gonna be that old 60-year-old dude on the yard trying to pick up a sophomore in college or something, right? Like, why, where does that, because some of us frown on others, and other of us are judged by it at the same time, but it's our innate nature as men to get caught up in that. And I think that's something worth exploring and unpacking as we dive into this.
Well, I can speak for myself. I'm married. I've been married for like 16 years now. And of course, I think most of us are in relationships that we don't study, right? And so I had to ask myself, I don't think even after getting married, I never truly asked myself, why did I get married? Because society says the right thing to do, because Jesus says the right thing to do, or because it's just simply the right thing to do. And when I discovered my marriage, and I've said this a few times on the show, matrimony is therapy for most men, right? And so when you see it like that, and me being a husband, I had to realize that I've been in 17 years worth of therapy, right? And I got married at about 34. And so you're trying to put 17 up against 34. And so technically, I just say it, I'm a recovering whoremonger, to put it lightly. And so you got to understand, what is your marriage, what type of recovery you in your marriage. And so people can understand, but number one, you're going to understand yourself, and then your wife can understand you too. I never came into my marriage because me and my wife were dating. I came into the dating part in the relationship with an understanding of what I was struggling with. And so I didn't come with my successes to the table like most men would probably will, which can probably be, it can actually be, it can hurt. It can be a positive thing and a negative thing. And so because I didn't lead with my successes. I led in this particular relationship with my struggles. And then my wife bought into the recovery. And that's what allowed her to marry me, because when she married me, she understood that it can be just as well as it can be a recovery and a reward at the same time, right? And so she risked the recovery in order to reap the rewards. And that's what most people have to really understand when it comes to the particular marriage. Not only that, with my struggles, and this is the catch-22. Most women don't understand their own struggles, because in the marriage, she had to understand, she found out in the marriage that she was struggling, had some struggles too, because we often paint the women as the perfect one in the marriage or the relationship, and they never get to explore their own struggles, discover their own struggles, that marriage actually is helping them with recovery as well. But I can only be accountable to my own recovery in that particular marriage. And you got to discover what that particular recovery looked like for you, both men and women. But for me, I understood what the recovery looked like coming into a relationship, but I was able to tolerate her like I would want her to tolerate me should I had slipped or backslidden, or what they call it in recovery. What's the terminology they call it?
Relapse.
Relapse, correct. Absolutely. And that's pretty much it.
Listen, hold on. Did you say, okay, so listen, I hear, I guess a part of this is, maybe I'm looking at this maybe with some rose-covered glasses, right? Because I'm always going to look at the positive in it, because some of this could be a place of peace for men. Not a place to get peace, but a place of peace. There's two different pieces I'm using there. That, because we do know that there might be people using that to get a peace, but it may be also to have a place of peace. And also, one thing I learned about recovery of anything, you can't recover if you run away from what you're saying you changed. So if you can't go and ride and still just look as you ride, you're only looking, you ain't stopping, you're just looking. You're just looking just for your own. Sometimes it can be beneficial for your own mental testosterone for when you get home. The things you looked at, they can be helpful to you. So I want to bring this curve in there, that some of it can be also as I would say, a rewarding something. I'm trying to look for the word. The word losing me right now, but it's I don't want it to be looked at as, oh, these dudes talking about going to look for chicks on the street, because I think it's a lot more complicated than that. And I think that when you understand men in a certain way, you can understand how complicated it could be. It's not, because you don't have to look for a woman if you want to, you want to be infidel, and you don't have to look for a woman. There's plenty of them, right? There's one right in your office who bat their eyes at you every day. It's one right, the next door neighbor to your house who see you every day. So it's not like you have to, this idea of going and it's like hunt. I would almost say like hunting, the nature of hunting, but you're not really going to hunt because you got everything you need at home. You're just going through the motions to make you feel some kind of way. And if that's wrong, again, if that's wrong, that's somebody's opinion, but I think that it is a way to really manage yourself, because to be faithful, to say that I'm going to be faithful, you have to understand what it means not to be faithful.
Well, Ron, I still ride and look, Ron. Remember I told you at the beginning of the show that I rode and looked for two reasons. I rode and looked for addiction reasons, but I also rode and looked for vision reasons. And so I'm talking about when I'm by even as a young man. Because all those riding and looking times I did have to myself, it was not always for addiction reasons. I've rode for reasons where I rode and looked into communities that I mean, I'm this one particular community I used to ride in. I've been riding and looking at for the last 30 years. It's almost like literally annually, or what they call it, semi-annually. No, annually. About every season I ride in this particular community because this is the community I wanted to stay in since I was 19 years old.
Right.
And
right.
so
right.
that's the what you call the vision side of riding and looking.
Right.
You understand? So I understand the addiction side, but the vision side of riding and looking, because I was able to, guess what? When I met my wife, who was then my girlfriend, she drove in that community to me. And I said, you know how long I've been looking at this community? And she said, wow, I didn't even know this community existed. I was like, yeah, it was just something of mine, right? That's my vision. That's my own want that I had. And I wasn't really sharing that particular vision with anybody. That's my own personal, you understand, space when it came to riding and looking. And so that looks different for everybody else. You got people who may have visions of going fishing and they drive all the way out to the Everglades, even though they have several lakes around their community.
Absolutely.
And so I remember.
Listen. It's like if I have to, and I'm saying it because as Lionel's saying it, I'm thinking about how many times I did it. Where I would ride 7th Avenue, no, 27th Avenue, right? I go down to Miami for something. I'll go through and ride through overtime. I don't have to ride through overtime. There's no need for me to be even riding over, going back over in the Booker T, coming back over, running, and then gonna ride up. There's no need, because I get the 95 right there to get on 95 and go about my business. I ride through overtime, come back up through the I can't think of what area where they developed Wynwood at, but before that, it was just the apartments on both sides. I ride up there, go over up the 27th Avenue to me is, yeah, you can correct me. I just know I go up there and then I ride that all the way up, all the way up, 95th, 80th, sometimes go down 82nd, 83rd. Is that 83rd Street? Sometimes turn right and go down 83rd. Just to be curious, what's down there, and then get down the Federal and come back up, go back up. Just riding back and forth, because I think for me it's I love to ride, I love to see stuff, and I see amazing things, and I can tell you some stuff. Man, I was riding, and I even again come back to that point of being safe. You see something going on and just pulling over and just watching what's going on. That's me being probably me being nosy, but it has a piece where I could have been home, 30 minutes ago. 30 minutes ago I could have been home, but I'm out riding, and I don't plan to do anything but just to look and get my own news. Instead of waiting on Channel 7 to give me news, I get my own news. In the neighborhoods, like you said, the neighborhoods that I'm interested in. I do that every time I go to Fort Lauderdale. I ride all up and down Trump before I go and ride up out of here. It's just, I
think it's a form of clarity also. I think we all have done it. I've done it, where you just jump on 95, ride out to Coconut Grove, drive around Coconut Grove, hit back up, take the local way down, going, like you said, through Overtown, Liberty City, seeing what they're developing, Wynwood, just driving down, 7th Ave, the 441. And and when you're doing it, it's peaceful. Like, I'm referring back to the story that Lightborn shared, where the guy drove all the way to Cali, because you're in a peaceful state. You're like, yo, I'm in my own bubble. Nothing's going to bother me. I control everything that's happening. I can leave and go anytime I want to. So you create a safe space for yourself to explore, to think, to reflect, meditate. A lot of people say you can't meditate while you're driving. You can, because you have your music going, you're in your own world, and you're looking. And like you said, Ron, you're not going out there to do anything. You're just going out there just to be.
Yeah,
and sometimes it's an escape where you just, and again, it's an escape one, and it's a vision board. Because sometimes you hit those neighborhoods and you're like, yo, one day I'm going to be in one of these houses. I'm gonna be in one of these high rises. I remember, driving down Collins, going down A1A, or riding it all the way as far as I can ride it. And I'm like, yo, man, I wonder how it is to be in one of these just overlooking the ocean. And so, it's just for clarity, it's for peace of mind. And sometimes, and what we don't realize is it's soothing. And that's sometimes when you're in there in your thoughts and you're able to just exhale, as they say, you come back refreshed. You come back with a different mindset.
Right.
And so that for me, that's what it was when I was riding around.
So, if I may, my experience was, I don't know, completely different. I remember being 18 years old. My dad had helped me get a car, and it was the summer after I got my first job when I was 18, and I was still living at the house. And I think for me, I don't know if it was vision or looking for validation or looking for I don't know, comfort, or looking for something. Had no clue. I just remember getting in the car. I'm on the west side of Chicago and driving, and lo and behold, somebody came out and tailspin me.
Mm.
And as I have thought about that over the years, I really felt like that was God's way of saying, get your butt back home. You ain't got no business being out in the street. There is nothing out there for you. What you're looking for is not, what you need. And I remember coming back home and my dad looking at the damage on the car and him asking me, what are you doing driving? You didn't have no place to go. And I didn't really know what to tell him. I said I was just out driving. And it didn't make sense to him why I was just out in the car on the road to nowhere. But for me, I don't know. Maybe I didn't have a core group of friends or something. But for me, I remember just looking for some sort of validation. And I think it was God's way of telling me where you probably will end up is not where you need to be validated. And I think that's why that car came in and hit me. And I don't think I've ever done a joyride, since, by myself. I've done the vision thing, I remember driving down A1A looking at the pretty houses and, never even attempting to think that I could ever live there, but just, window shopping, if you will, just looking out but I would do it with the kids, hey kids, look at that yacht next to that house and all that other kind of stuff. But I guess my initial experience with riding and looking, I just felt like that was God's way of telling me, take your butt back home. Then ain't nothing out here for you.
Hey, I don't disagree. I agree 100%. Listen, that happened to me numerous times. I think it happened to me more than I could even imagine. It probably happened more because more times I'm out there riding and looking, more things happen to get your behind. Hey, I'm out of here. I'm gone. You're right.
Now,
I guess for me, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Nah, Trav, go ahead. It's your turn.
Thank you. I guess for me, I guess it's different. I like to ride out like that because I do it a lot. You know, when my kids are sleeping, everybody tucked in bed, my mind go to worry about thousands of other things, too much stuff. And then I just go take a drive. I went all the way down to South Beach one time. Don't know how I got there, but I was just there. And I don't know, I just turned back around. I mean, I don't know, it's different for me. Riding always try to make me clear my head. I like to drive. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. To me, it's different. Like it's like I get what you're saying. Like because trust me, I do too. I drive and I try to go to a script joint or ride by one, stop for a second, and look at it, be like, let me drive on by. I'm hungry. I want to go get a burger. you know what I'm saying? Because it does take me to negative places, but I don't know. I like to drive because it always clear my head, But I get what you also saying. So it's like I'm kind of up in the air with that. You know what I'm saying?
To Tini's point, we got to understand that it's not one thing. Because remember, I told you this is an intimate conversation. So whether you got a good group of friends or not, it wouldn't matter one bit because this is you. This is riding and looking is the soul of you. Has really nothing to do with your friends, because even if you look at prostitute stings and stuff like that, some of the most affluent people are picked up in those stings. I mean, we had Robert Kraft picked up. He's been riding and looking too. So just thought I'd throw that in there. So if Robert Kraft riding and look, he can get picked up.
He wasn't riding and looking though, Lionel. He was inside the joint getting. He was inside getting a massage.
Doesn't matter because that's the outcome of riding and looking. So remember, he had to ride and look to get there. And so riding and looking is so cross culture and so cross so many culture and class lines. It's not just, and particularly again, I said it is. It's very predatory in nature. And remember, I told you, particularly being a male and having that particular male privilege, it is very predatory in nature, but at the same time therapeutic as well. I remember a young man, a guy from FAMU. He was drum major. He said, man, his friend used to call it windshield therapy. And I said, you know what? I guess I never saw it like that, because he was an elder. And the way he saw it, he said, man, there's nothing but them to jump on the road and just drive to Tallahassee or another state. You understand? Just for the sake of driving to another state, just to get into another environment and another mindset. And then being in particular fraternities and stuff like that, they would have those networks they can drive to. And so I understood it from both areas. But then again, riding and looking was so instinctive to us, and still is instinctive to us, because we never really had we didn't make no intelligence out of it, and up until right now. And so the outcome of this and the goal of this particular conversation is to put some intelligence into something that men instinctively do.
I can agree. I can agree with what
writing or like making music or something like that. That what you mean?
No, it means like we all said that we were driving while we were riding, and which is true to form. We didn't know specifically why we was riding. From Teeny when he was just when he started driving, all the way up to me when I'm driving. You're right. We had no particular place to go and no reason of why we jumped in the car in the first place. And so again, that means it was instinctive that we did it. The thing about it is we're gonna try to make sense out of why we instinctively ride and look.
I get it.
This brother Johnny here. I know I'm off screen, like very unusual, but today I'm on my phone. Been driving on the road, so please forgive me, brothers.
Oh, but see, Johnny doing
he
the
was
thing
driving.
Oh, y'all got jokes. The rather look at thing. I think we just for men, then again, you know what? I can't speak for women. I'll speak for me as a man, because I'm sure there are women out there who ride and look as well. Whether or not their purpose is the same as ours is, that I don't know. The instinctive part that you referenced, Lionel, is it instinctive, or is it just our, I guess it would be, because our nature to explore. It's our nature as men to constantly want to see what's the next thing, either one we can conquer or get involved with. What's the next opportunity? You know, at 18, Tenny is getting out there. He's trying to see, he just got his license. He just wants to see what the next side, what the south side of Chicago like. He done heard all kind of things. He on the west side. He said, I done heard about the south side and all the craziness going on. I might drive over there. You know, and as we get older, a lot of times we're just driving because, as you guys say, wanting to clear our minds, whatever the drama was that day. Sometimes before we even get home, we take the longer ride so we don't have to deal with what's home. Because we know once we get home, dad is instinctive. Dad has to kick into play. Husband has to kick into play. So that drive allows us the time to just be, as you said, Lionel, with us. And while we're driving, we're looking and sometimes thinking about what is it that you're going to do next, whether that is at home. So for men, it has been, let me phrase that. For me, it has always been about exploring the next thing, and sometimes just getting the break before the next position, the next step, the next expectation of us has to kick in. Because as men, it never stops. Whether you are single, the expectation is success. When you're married, the expectation is being a good husband and being available for your wife. When you have children, the expectation is being an involved father and being there for them. So you can't just come home and tell them, hey, y'all need to sit your behind now. I ain't got time for y'all right now. But we have that expectation. So whatever that may be, sometimes the riding and looking is just that period of time before we have to engage in that next expectation of us.
You know, Gaspar said something that is that I just want to reiterate. Sometimes that riding and looking is used as an escape from dealing with your everyday life, because your everyday life is, for lack of a better word, torturous. Going home and dealing with that person that you decided that you want to spend the rest of your life with. I really, in my opinion, you know how you say, where does this rush hour traffic come from? I think it comes from the group of people who don't want to make it home.
I like that. I like that.
I really do.
I like that.
Because sometimes you got to sit there and these, you know, you're driving and you got those people who are like, man, when I get home, I'm just going to start hearing it. And I don't want to deal with any of that. Some people go to work to escape home life. And so I think that's something that is powerful that Gaspar was saying, because those type of people have to realize what's in their control and what's not in their control, and how to deal with what's going on at home, and how to make the home life a little bit more positive. And like Ron said earlier, don't run from it. You've got to deal with it and work on it, so it's something that's better for you, better for her, better for the whole family.
You know, I would feel our ancestors at some point, right? Mama knew that dad was going to take a little bit longer time to get home. He got work at 4 o'clock, but she had dinner set up and ready about 7 o'clock, about 7 o'clock, right? And you knew that because he was, after work, he was going to mill around somewhere, some way, somehow. So, I mean, I think that is also something that is also known historically by people who are in those type of relationships, that their partner does this thing. It's not something that's bad. It's just something that also, because the only other place that we got as men that we go to is the bathroom, and we sit in there for about 4 or 5 hours, check everything on the, we go in there, they be checking to say, you had a heart attack in there, you okay? No, we in there checking the phone, checking all our messages, stuff, because we can't do anything else.
Hey, your
When we
leg
in the
get
public.
numb, your leg get numb and all of that.
I see, Johnny know. You stretching out, but you've been done, but you've been done in there for about been done in there 15 minutes, and you still in there just working, just going through whatever you do, the stuff you're doing.
For the record, that's nasty. Just so y'all know.
Well, hey, that might be your only place that you got, brother. You only got the chrome dome to get your sanity down.
How you the king of the kingdom, and that's where you gotta handle your business.
Hey, brother, that's.
But Ron, here's another point. And this is why, because I'm gonna really sound smart right now. So I think it's instinctively intuitive, right? For men to ride and look so much. It's so embedded in our DNA that even when I look at the homeless population, look at the homeless population and see how imperative it is for a homeless man to have a bike versus a homeless woman. You will rarely see a homeless woman with a bike, but you would almost always see a homeless man with a bike. And remember, I told you, if we're going to talk about this particular topic, and we're going to really think this thing out, you got to look at studies that haven't been done yet. And so when I look at this study, I'm like, no, seriously, just literally look at the amount of homeless men who have bikes versus the homeless women who have bikes. And that's how instinctive and intuitive it is for us to ride and look. Even if we couldn't afford it, we're going to find a way. If we don't ride and look on a bike, we'll ride and look on a bus. But we're going to ride and look one way or another, because back to Johnny's point, it's embedded in our DNA to explore. And so that's a good point that I did not think about. And also with Teeny's point, Teeny, I left out of you bought the youth version of it too, because I'm like, a youth reason for riding and looking would not be the same as an adult reason for riding and looking, because youth, for the most part, when you do drive, you drive to be validated and just simply to be seen. And I didn't think about it like that, because I'm like, well, that's right. So that brings the innocence back to the conversation versus just being purely instinctive.
So I got a question on that. Two things. Why are we getting conditioned to get married? Going back to what Ron was saying earlier, one. And then two, if we want to be seen, right, from the innocence of it, when and how, right, does that flip to, what'd you say earlier? I'm seeing, did you say, Lionel? I see provision or addiction. When does it go from being seen to now it's an addiction? Or I need to see the vision, right? Like what, and I think that happens according to who we allow ourselves to influence us, our fear of influence, our sphere of influence, right? Our friends. If you have, I don't want to judge anybody or label anybody, but in a sense, athletes hang out with other athletes, they're doing other things. If you're in a band or you're playing video games or you're in the theater department, you're doing other things, right? And the influence kind of triggers some of these natural things that happen in us. So as we're talking about this, I'm also trying to explore, always constantly trying to figure out how do we model a behavior for the kids to follow when we're subconsciously or blindly being led also by how we got here, right? Because literally all the men in this room have a different experience of what this looks like for us and how those experiences have shaped us to today. And then how do we continue to move now? I remember a time in my life, I used to rush home. And then I realized, I was like, wait, why am I rushing to get home? Like, I'm going for it if I get there faster. I need to finish out my day, take my time for myself, and then I can get home and then be dad, right? And I think we all have our own learning curve on that. And understanding what that looks like in your own life, I think that's the key to the riddle, just from my perspective.
Well, to answer your question, go ahead.
Well, let me answer the first part of that question real quick, Lionel. I don't think we're conditioned to be married. I think that's instinct that we want someone to be with, right? So it's not a matter of conditioning yourself or conditioning other people to find a mate. Naturally, we want to have a mate. And And so when we talk about it, the thing that we don't discuss is the type of person that you should be with based on your expectations of your mate. And that's where the disconnect comes in, because we want to focus on, yo, she looks good, I'm going to get with her. Yes, she looks good, but what if she's disfigured? Are all the other attributes that you're looking for going to shine through? You see what I'm saying? Or is it just I'm with her because she looks good? Well, you know, and so that's where we have to start to place the emphasis, is not so much on the looks, because you do want someone who's appealing to you. And everyone has a different person and a look that appeals to them. So the range is wide. But do you also have that supportive feature that I want, that loving, nurturing feature that I want? Can we potentially grow together? Can we potentially change together? Because the one thing that happens in relationships that really hurts it is one person changes while the other person stays the same. And when you start to when you feel you start to outgrow someone, your riding and looking becomes a little bit different. All right. And so that's something that we have to start to look at when it comes to talking to our kids and educating our kids. Now, when you say, why is it the change is different for other people? Because we're maturing differently. Our experiences are a little bit different. And once you start to understand and mature, you understand as you get older, you don't have the same energy that you did when you were younger. So when you first become that dad, you're a ball of energy. Boop, boop, boop. I'm going to get home. I'm going to be with the family. I'm going to do everything I'm going to do. We're going to have fun together. And then as you get older, you realize I need to take time out to recoup mentally before I dive into this. And so it's a level of maturity that you start to get along with the wisdom of an involved father. And that's the one thing. Once you start to become involved in your family and have a stake in your family, you start to think a little bit different when it comes to your family. Go ahead, Lightborn.
No, I was asking, well, you know what? Thank you, Rob, for that. I was like, Rob, you're a cold brother. I was like, you broke some hearts. Anyway, so I digress. To Castro's point, Castro, the marriage, again, because I'm married, so I'm going to come from some somewhat experience. The marriage for me was a reconditioning that I knew I needed, right? Because that's one thing about conditioning. You gotta understand whether so you can be culturally conditioned because and just conditioned be a gender or whatever the case may be. So what it says, so as it goes, or whatever the case may be. You run in Rome, do what the Romans do. But particularly as a man, if we're gonna be married, yes, it's gonna have to be some reconditioning that you decide for yourself. And so yes, society may have had something to do with your addiction conditioning, right? But when you decide you want to get married and you want that reconditioning can have to come as a want for yourself. And so it becomes a liberation of sorts, right? So you can escape the what they call, I would like to call it, I'm gonna just make this phrase up real quick. I would like to call it, you need to be free or liberated from what they call a biological addiction, right? Biological addiction, or better yet, a biological insanity. And here's where men become biologically insane, because you know what the definition of insanity is, right? Doing the same thing, expecting
the same results.
Yeah, expecting a different outcome, right? So if the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result or a different outcome, then why do I need 100 girls to get to the same outcome? Or better yet, let me just put it in simple terms. Why do I need 100 girls to get the same orgasm? And in some cases, I can get the same orgasm with my hand. So why am I conditioned, right? That's myself as a man, because I had to understand my insanity, you understand, before I understood I had a need for the recondition. And so I'm like, well, why did I need all those girls to get the same orgasm that I've gotten with different girls? and in some cases with my own hand. And so what was
in those scenarios,
Mhm.
in those scenarios, I can speak from my experience, it wasn't about the orgasm. It wasn't about the end result. It was about the conquer of that drive. It was about the experience of, oh, I just met this chick 4 hours ago. Can I close this deal? Right? It's that whole journey and that process that you're talking about, the driving, the instinctual, right? That, from that perspective, right? Now, as a married man and been faithful for 9 years to my wife since we've been committed, and been married 9, been committed there 10, I've realized that I had the ability to control my physical urges in that sense, but I couldn't stop eating pork or some sugar, red velvet or something. But yeah, I would keep my private parts around anybody else because I've been loyal and faithful. So that's what I mean by the conditioning and the layering of, well, I know that I can be faithful and I know that I can be loyal, but what was it that I was really loyal, being loyal to? Was it to the sanctity of marriage or to the vow that I made in front of God, right? And then to this person that, if I go and step outside the realms of what we talked about, now I'm causing emotional scar. But then really we got together because of our trauma bond and what brought us together and what appealed to one another in those moments of life, right? So to me, it's a weird dynamic of how we get to where we're at and then how we continue to follow down the same rabbit hole that we jumped in with a different mindset 12 years ago, right?
Well, I'm saying that I can't say for me, right? Because I mean, logically, for me, if I had more experience being promiscuous, right? Basically, if I had more experience cheating than I did being married, then I was more likely to cheat. So there was no automatic, because I put a ring on it, a condition for me to actually be faithful than it was for me to cheat. There was a standard, you understand? But there was no real science, you understand? Because I had more experience and more, you understand, conditioning of being unfaithful. And so when I got into marriage, I had to understand that marriage, number one, the marriage is reconditioning, and number two, the marriage is also therapeutic to help me on my journey to faithfulness. So I wasn't under no delusion that, oh, I'm gonna get married and I'm gonna be faithful. I already knew that. I'm like, man, I'm more likely to cheat than be faithful. And the fact that I was faithful was divine in itself. But I thought about, like, no, because I did something that what most students learn when you graduate from anything. I applied myself to the marriage. And that's how I became faithful. But I had to apply myself to the reconditioning first in order to then apply myself. Okay, you know what? Let me apply myself to the reconditioning. Then I applied that to the marriage. And there we go. We 17 years successful. But I went in just on conventional wisdom. I went in with the odds stacked against me because my history and relationship said I was more likely to cheat than be faithful.
So here's my
Let
pushback on
me ask
that,
this
though.
question real fast on that. Do you feel not only about applying yourself to the marriage, but the person that you're applying yourself to the marriage for was worth it? And I think
that's the pushback that I have. That's exactly my pushback. Going back to what you were just saying earlier, Gene, you were talking about a young man isn't, okay, she might look attractive, but are there other things that she can bring to the table to manage the home and manage the children and be the wife that you thought she was, just besides what she looks externally, right? Because mentally and spiritually, she can be wrecked. And it's not her fault, but that's what kind of attractive, going back to the trauma bond. So when you were saying that, Gene, I was thinking of, and I'm just putting myself in the scenario, when I met my wife, and then when I married her, my values had changed. And the values and the things that I was looking in women had changed. I no longer needed a chick that was willing to say yes in 20 or 30 minutes. I now was looking at what kind of woman, a model behavior will this woman be for my children, right? How does she represent? So I'm saying my values changed. Going back, and the pushback to you, Lionel, is, okay, yeah, if you were already thinking this way, your values almost also had to change, right? The things that matter to you now are different or tethered differently, right? And I guess that's where I want to spend some time at, is because how do we help in that? How do we help that conditioning? I feel like you almost got to be brainwashed to either go this way or that way. Because if you're left to your own devices, you're kind of just modeling through life instead of really being and living your full potential.
Well, let me bring us back to looking and riding and how this plays crucial into the conversation that you guys are having right now. Because we only looking and riding because it is conditional to make us still feel good egotistically that we're a certain kind of person. Even though we ain't got that kind of juice anymore. We ain't even got that kind of desire. But we still want to appease our own self-image, our self-esteem, our self-gratitude to say, I'm riding through here looking around and seeing, oh, look at the honeys. Listen, if you ask a guy, why will you go on social media networks? They got 1 million sites with these women on these pictures of women, and these guys is looking at these all, it's 1 million sites. I ain't seen one site with a picture where dudes is getting, you looking at the dude, maybe because I'm not seeing those, but I'm just thinking of who is the first, always ask, who is the people taking these pictures? But obviously it's a whole bunch of us men, and when I say a whole bunch of us, who use that for our own, again, I'm gonna come back to peace. It's fantasy, some of it's fantasy, some of it is the idea to say, if I can just look, because I know I didn't even get the time to even talk. I'm just looking. Not to say my looking means that I don't want to look at my wife or my partner. It's just, I feel a certain way when I feel like I'm being this man that I need to be. Because I think that if you tell yourself that you're not that man, you're lying to yourself. I think we can't change the nature of the being that we are, but we can be conditioned to say something is more important to us than to be that way. But we still got the desire for those things. It ain't going, listen, for someone to say it's completely gone, that's not true. Because if you're an addict, you're always an addict. The idea is that I have the control to say that I am going to control what's going to happen. And I'm not going to partake in this because I have a higher thing that is more important to me than the drugs or the alcohol. So it's just looking at that. And I think it's so ironic that we don't get to have a conversation about this, because now we're talking about it almost to the point of if men was infidel and why men cheat and why it's happened, he got a great wife, blah, blah, blah. But we don't go into how much of that is a part of, he needs an outlet to make him still be a man in his mind and the way he perceives a man, but he don't got it. So he got to go and do the real thing. He got to go out and that he don't even want to do. He don't even want to do. Not even interested in it. He, like you say, he going to, like you said, Castro going to get a notch on the belt that you don't even wear. You don't even wear the belt, but you're going to get a notch on it.
Well, right, that back to Castro point though, and that's what makes for me and Castro. You asked why would we get into a marriage or something like that if we wasn't really disciplined enough to be in it or something to that nature. I couldn't really. I'm just paraphrasing the question, but I realized
being in marriage.
Right, that's it.
Culturally, we were 25 now. You got no kids, you got no wife. Like, what's going on? You know, women right. It starts at different ages. At different culturally, it's always like, what's next? Especially if you're the only son, you're the only name line, right? Like Ramirez died with you if you don't have any boys.
Right, and that's the thing. I'm glad you brought me back to my point. And so why for me? Why did I get married? I had to realize because we got remember I said we got to control, not even so much control our narrative. We have to know our narrative, not control it, but know it, right? And to know your narrative, I realized, which was the perfect narrative to get married under. I wanted to get married for me, not for her. Notice the difference. Not even for the children. You have to do it for you. And so when marriage became beneficial to me, I became beneficial to it. But if marriage is not beneficial to you, or matter of fact, not just marriage, any relationship, if your job is not beneficial to you, it's gonna, guess what? That job is gonna, it's gonna be a divorce in that future. Anything in a relationship you're a part of, if it's not beneficial to you, or you can't find your worth in that particular relationship, it's already heading for the divorce. And so I had to decide that, and that ultimate decision with my marriage, which started to reflect in every other aspect of my life, even having this conversation with you guys. Because once I started to understand the narrative of my own worth, then I had something to contribute to the world. And so that's just my take on it. I'll free the floor for somebody else to discuss it.
Getting hated.
That was a gem right there, bro. Thank you, Lionel.
Getting hot tonight.
Married.
Appreciate you guys.
We gotta write that. You gotta put that on a t-shirt,
I know,
bro.
Clay on you. Clay, I'm gonna have to call you out. You sitting on you observing everything.
Hey, that needs to be a quote on a t-shirt. Marriage becomes beneficial to you, you become beneficial to the marriage. When you know, that's wow. That's
but Castro, see, the only problem, and I know Clay, you're going to talk. The only problem is we only talking about this from one side. We don't know the other side. We sit here and talk as if marriage is our master, that we master. We don't. We only one part of it. There's other person who we are married to who have a whole nother dynamic of how they come to this and why they come there and why they accept you to go out and do those things. And it's just so much of that we can only master on our end. And we can only become acceptable and accountable for on our end. We can't control the whole thing. A lot of times that's what we want to do as men, control the whole situation. But that means that we got to control the other person. We got to control all the other people that's going to get involved. And that's a lot of work. Then we talk about getting into, Clay, I'm going to bring you right in here, into being all about power and control. And that's the part that we need us to, as much as possible, be careful and teeter on. And power and control is good in one aspect for us, but it becomes very dangerous for us on another end.
Ron, you went exactly where I was about to go, because as much as we say all these good things, there's another person on the other side. Even when we take that slow ride home, when we get there, why the hell is taking you so long to get home? What's going on? How come you didn't this? How come you didn't that? And then that slow ride became a big problem. So now, can I take that slow ride? Can I do that windshield thing? No, because I know what I'm going to get at home. And as Ron pointed out, as much as we can think about what we want, how we want to set up our standards, how we want to deal with our relationship or ourselves, really, because that's where we start with. The other person at home has no idea. She has a path that's totally different. Now, what do you do? Because when you are challenged, and as much as we're comfortable with ourselves and who we are as a man, when we are challenged, when we're confronted, how does that moment take place and how do you handle it? And each one of us, from the perspective of, this is my home, I'm a provider, I am the man of the house. When we're challenged, we snap. We snap so much, it's crazy. And once we snap, recovery is hard as hell, because every time we feel something, now that person reflects back on, I remember a year ago, you was all in my face. I remember 6 months ago, you were all in my face. And it doesn't have to be that time frame, because if I snap on Monday, I had a great week. But on next Monday, a little conversation takes place. She go back to last week, Monday, and she holds on to it. She holds on to it. And so many times, I just got through with a session with a young lady. Producer, pay everything. Don't see. And this is what she said in the session. I don't need a nigga. I don't need a man. I don't need a dude for nothing. But the man she got for 18 years run over her like she's nothing. And she cried through the whole session as she's talking to me. And I said, you are an intelligent woman. You are a producer. Virtually any man would love to have you. Why do you tolerate? I don't know. I said, do you love him that much? I guess so. So when we talk about walking away, recognizing, handling things, if it's not right, I ain't dealing with that. brother, that swings both ways. Women and men deal with all of the ugliness. And the hardest thing for us to deal with is the other person. And the other person, we don't learn this. We talking great because we're experienced. We got background. We're comfortable. I don't know how many people act up at home, but still we good, man. We good now because this is the conversation that we need to have. But when I talk, I'm always pushing, because when we talk, I would love to ask Lionel, well, Lionel, what does that mean? Explain to me how far that goes. I need to have word after word after word, because what that does is really open up the conversation to a broader sense. We can say windshield, we can say love, we can say, no, let's keep it in relationship. We can say anything about a feeling at home or a behavior at home, and we can articulate about that all night long, because each one of us have a different experience, a different thought, a different need. And man, when Ron mentioned her, brother, that's going to be the stumbling block or the help all of the time. Which one do you choose? How much do you pull back? Do you have to shut down? I got a brother. I'm just, because I can always mention different things that are taking place in my business right now. He asked his old lady for money, $1,000, and this was just yesterday. She said, we don't have it. He got mad, broke the TV, big screen TV off the wall. And he came into session and said, I didn't have $1,000, so I broke the TV. So I said, man, you just added another bill and child protective services in your life and a case. Why did you do it? Man, I don't know. I was just mad. Fellas, I'm telling you, the thinking process is so significant. Every single thing that you do can impact someone else. If you're not smiling and happy, there's a problem. And I'm done. We can move on from there.
Hey, Clay.
Clay said a lot.
Clay,
thank you so much.
Take the TV down to the local pawn shop and get a loan on the TV.
At the moment, he was so angry, and that's always the challenge. It's always a split second. The young lady that I was talking to today, she had pulled the gun out and she hit the door because her man had locked her out. The guy who was, in my opinion, worthless virtually, he had barred her from coming into the house. She took her gun out and she said she struck the door with the butt of the gun. It went off. Her daughter called law enforcement. Case, okay? Felony, fired a gun and all this old stuff. She got 2 felonies on her. It's crazy. I got a guy came in yesterday, a new brother, okay? And when I'm talking to him, he said his 19-year-old son, and it's actually his girlfriend's son, he got into a conflict in the house. And I said, okay. He said he thought the 19-year-old son might pull a knife because he had pulled the knife 2 years ago and said he wanted to kill himself. So I said, well, what happened on this occasion? He said that, well, the son pushed the mother down and the sister down. So he unholstered his gun in his mind to say, I don't want to have to shoot you, but I'm going to pull my gun out. Felony. I said, man, you've been a gun owner for 7 years. You know, once you unholster, it's a charge. And gentlemen, I'm saying this because everything is like this. You don't have the time to cruise around and chill and so on and so forth. Someone is in your face, a moment takes place, anger rises. Once anger rises, what are you capable of? Every single moment. If you gentlemen do not critique yourself and think about what will you do at that single moment when someone is pushing, someone is in your face, you can't get a break. Your feelings are high. Will you strike? Will you say something that you cannot recover from? What will you do? And if you're not prepared to put yourself in that position mentally, you're missing it. Because riding in the car by yourself is easy. It's when you come home, it's going to be the challenge. Okay.
Clay,
Yes,
I got a question for you. I got 2 questions for you. And it may sound, I'm asking this, it may sound foolish, but
never.
Because you said something, you told the person, for one of your clients, you were like, why don't you leave him? Right now, I don't know how, the dynamics of every single one of your clients, but it would seem to me that all your clients are in the wrong relationship if the person that they're with is only there pushing buttons. Now, I'm not using that as an excuse to say, you know, that's the simple answer. But do they ever take the time to examine the person that they're with versus the history that they have in viewing relationships and the type of people that they get with, in order for them to self-examine where they should be versus where they are?
First, let me say this. In 26 years, I have never told an individual to leave a relationship. With her, I simply asked her why she didn't leave, because that is one of the most obvious. When I got through sessioning with her, I talked to my wife, who also who does similar things as I do. And it was so disappointing and so hurting to me to hear a woman and watch a woman cry. I mean, she's crying through the whole 45-minute session, and she's talking about what she's going through. And when she talks about how in 18 years, he didn't contribute anything. He even took the kids' summer job money to pay for the transmission on his vehicle and then say, I don't have a car because I can't take anybody. I can't deal with anybody. Every relationship is so different. Gene, it's like, how do you feel? I have another client who I was counseling with yesterday, couples counseling. When she was told to put a restraining order on her husband based upon his behavior at home. She said, I don't want to. They said, we're taking the kids. Failure to protect. So they gave him the option of him taking anger management classes and couples counseling, which he completed the anger management. They're in couples counseling now. When she said, I don't want to leave him, she said that's the first time he acted a fool like that. Okay. So because you can catch a serious case the very first time, and once the system is in your life, you have to make decisions. Okay. So you're not ready to walk away from your relationship, but once you do it, the system is there, and they're going to be in your life until there's changes. Okay. I hope that gives you some insight there, because most people don't walk away.
And Clay, is because and I think that it is a valid thing that you're saying, because we think that we want to control our life. We want to be the one in charge. Again, it goes right back to the power and control thing. These people are not going to tell me what to do, but you brought the people into the place for them to be. Exactly. And if you did not, and then you don't be smart about it. You say, okay, you got to go, John, but you don't really got to go, honey. You got to leave here. You need to go stay with your brother for 6 months. Right. Until we get out. But no, what they both end up standing on a platform and say, it's always, we're not letting anybody tell us what to do or how to do things, because we've grown. And what happens? Their kids learn that same behavior. Exactly. So this becomes a learned behavior that trickles down, that people don't use strategies and skills to really think about how to resolve issues. They just make more issues for themselves and more issues. And that's why I go take them long drives. Because when I'm driving, I'm talking to myself in the car, I'm analyzing and thinking. Even at some point, I'm making up scenarios of what would I do in these scenarios. And I know that probably sounds like it's crazy, man, but it's not crazy in my mind, because some of those same things that I've been riding in the car, looking and driving around and thinking about have happened. And I've been able to think about that. Oh, you know what I said? If this happened, this is what I would do. And I walked my ass right away when he told me, what you looking at, fuck nigga? And I walked my behind walked right away. I could have did a whole bunch of other things. Right. I walked away like he wasn't even talking to me, because I've told myself. But again, we tell ourselves other things sometimes in our mind. We tell the other stuff. So sometimes
I wish your mother would. I wish it would.
See? And that's where it goes. I tell myself, you can tell them, call me, hey, Jack, call me whatever you want, dog. Listen, I'll be here when they announce you on the news. I'll be like, man, I ran into that guy. Lucky I just kept on moseying on.
Hey, Ron, let me follow that up. About 4 years ago on the golf course, we're playing, and this guy who picks up a ball after he hit the ball, once you hit the ball off the tee, you're supposed to finish the hole before you change your ball, right? So he'd hit the ball and then he'd pick up a ball and put in his pocket. So casually I said, man, that's not right. Yes, you're not doing the right thing there. But this guy, this brother jumped up in my face, motherfucker, I'll fuck you up. Now, and as soon as he went there, my mind went to, I can hit him with a whole bunch of crazy stuff. I thought about my job, my wife, even my partners on the golf course, law enforcement there, witnessing. I thought about all that in a matter of seconds, and I smiled at him and kept it moving, man. But in my mind, I was racing, I was burning, but I was smart enough and controlled enough to not put myself in jeopardy. I got all types of metal clubs right there in my hand, man. I could have easily took him down, easily. But you have to be prepared. One of the advantages that Johnny, Ron, myself, and I don't know what a lot of you guys do, but the more you deal with people on the broader perspective, the more you learn about behavior. And the key thing about behavior is that a lot of people cannot control themselves, and we don't know how to outthink behavior. We don't know how to do that because we're not prepared. We don't have daily experiences. When I ask a client, why did you do that? You didn't think about what would happen when you hit her upside the head. You didn't think about what you did when you fight. I got referrals just today. Young man, 22 years old, he in the car beating his wife while she's driving with the kid in the car, and then jumped on the aunt in the car driving. I haven't had a chance to reach out to him, but in my mind, I'm saying, what the hell? But that's, you see, gentlemen, whenever you hear my voice, you always going to hear some of the ugly traumas that you guys don't experience, but you'll hear about, because I see it every single day. I'll invite any one of you guys to pop into a session. You can be a visitor and just kind of listen to what's going on. But
and with that said, we come back to the time frame where we will learn about looking and driving. Y'all know I always wrap it up at 8:30. Y'all know I'm the wrap up person, but I'm messing with you guys. Listen,
hey, I like to continue. Jay,
yeah,
Johnny,
I know.
for the time check.
I know Castro's gonna say something. Listen, no, I think when y'all first started this topic and I first got in, because I was a few minutes late, I saw the topic Ron said, I was like, looking and riding. What are you talking about? So then I started hearing y'all talk about it, and I'm like, okay, interesting. I want to see where this gonna go. And the more and more I heard everybody's story, from Teddy to Castro to Lionel and Robert and everybody else, and then finally we get here at Clay with the drama of the dude driving the car beat the wife, I hear the same thing, that when we're looking and driving, part of it is learning how to deal with things in our own way. Part of it is our experiences, exploring. Part of it is just us not wanting to do the wrong thing, so we do that. And sometimes while we're driving, we stop, and it gives us the opportunity to think about whether or not I should do this or not. Because like Travis said, he'd put up to the strip club and be like, nah, I'm gonna take my behind home. You know what I mean? So I just think that the whole thing of looking and riding allows us all as men to think about what it is that we're dealing with from a positive perspective and a negative. And we learn as we grow with the situation how we can do things better while we're sitting in the car. Because as Ron said, while he was riding, he had thought about this stuff already. And when the dude said what he did, his reaction could have been one. But because at that time, he remembered how he changed and made a different choice. So again, great topic. I wasn't expecting it to go where it went. And we definitely took it in a lot of places, from Castro and the marriage situation to just coming back to us as individual men and the choices we make. So I just think it was a great topic that just using the words alone, you'd have never seen all of this conversation out of it. So again, Brother Ron, Lionel, Castro, all y'all, man, thank you for enlightening my mind that, the legal system can jack up at times. But I appreciate you, brothers, when I come in here and get a chance to listen more than anything else. So thank y'all very much.
Hey man, hey, Johnny, that's what I'm glad that you kept timekeeping, because I started getting, I had got lost into the, Clay could get me. let me tell you, Clay can get me started. If he start talking, then he know we just we'll go. Me and Clay did some presentation before, and the people probably wanted us to hear him and leave up out there because we was hitting them with the 1-2 punches. But it was a great summary of what we had, and so I let it stay right there where Johnny summarized for us what our conversation was. And I know I thought the same thing. I was like, I don't know what we're gonna go with this looking and riding and looking, but I thought of a lot of things, and I'm glad that we went there because we also were everyone able to be a little bit vulnerable, a little bit transparent, and also it showed hopefully fathers who are watching and other men who are watching that there's an opportunity to be that way, to be better, to expand on your own self-image, your self-esteem, and empower yourself by transparency. And I think that's a big part of what we're doing here. Well, hey, we like thank everybody for joining us.
Ron, let me apologize. I'm looking at this is a live broadcast, so I apologize for the words. But the other thing about words is that it's natural, and this is what people say, and that's what I'll always have in session. So I apologize to you guys.
You know, hey Clay, you don't have to apologize. This is not we're not rated.
You got a lot of motherfuckers in here, bro.
We have to have real. We're not just on here. You listen. Everything was in context. You don't have to apologize. It was in context, right. And if you took it out of context, then it wouldn't be meaningful for what someone needed to hear. Exactly. Again, thanks everybody. If you want fathers, you're out there. We have our meeting tomorrow just for fathers. Check right in the chat below where you're watching this video right now. You'll see the Zoom link to join us tomorrow. The conversation will see how this conversation got tonight. Imagine this plus 10. That's how we are in the private conversation. So you know we getting hot and heavy in there, and we'll be continuing this conversation about getting involved. The topic for tomorrow is getting involved. So that is just continuing with this topic that we had tonight. And thanks everybody, and we'll see you next time. Oh, if I didn't say it, and Gene pulled to remind me, hey, join us, watch us, like us, subscribe to us, ding, so you can get notified when we come on, or be able to save it in your watch later folder. So thanks everybody, and good night.
I am.
We're not.
Oh, hey, thank you. Hey, so you gotta remind me. I'll be on the run. And with that being said, fathers, I am a man of honor.
I am a man of
honor.
I am a man of courage.
I am a man of courage.
I am a man of respect.
I am a man of respect.
Fathers, I said that I am.
I said
I said that you are.
You are.
I said that we are.
We are.
Championship fathers.
Championship fathers. Yes, sir.
Championship fathers. Let's go.
As you see, if you looked at the pin there for today's show, you see the dad flexing, and he got his son flexing too. That's to say that we're flexing and holding our kids on our shoulder and our families on our back. It's not to be machismo, not to be a muscle man, but it's to be a father who provides and protects their family. And thank you again, and good night.
Good night.